You think you own this land? The words hang in the air long before I even reach the edge of the property, the gravel crunching under my boots, the sun reflecting off the freshly painted survey stakes that Brenda Whitmore's crew had scattered across my pasture. I can taste the dust in the air, the metallic tang of the fence posts left half buried in the dirt, and the sharp scent of freshly cut timber wafting from the temporary shed they erected without permission. My chest tightens, pulse quickening, because this isn't just a patch of land. It's 3 generations of family, each corner of it stitched with memories, from Pop's old oak tree where I carved my initials at 12, to the small spring-fed pond that kept our cattle alive during droughts. Brenda's SUV gleams in the sunlight, perched like a crown above the chaos, and I can see her smirk through the tinted windows, her confidence as precise as the ruler she carries in her purse, measuring everything she doesn't own. The hum of the construction equipment vibrates through the ground, a low, steady rhythm that somehow echoes the tension in my chest, and I step closer, inhaling the mix of diesel, sawdust, and hot asphalt, feeling it sting my nostrils. The breeze carries a faint trace of her perfume, floral and sharp, clashing with the earthy smell of disturbed soil, reminding me just how out of place her polished world feels here. I walk past the half-finished fence, running my fingers along the rough-hewn wood, remembering the summers my sister and I played hide-and-seek behind it, the sound of our laughter bouncing off the rolling hills. A gust lifts a loose sheet of plywood and it slaps against a post with a crack, and for a second, everything freezes. The workers pause, the SUV door opens slightly, and I catch a glimpse of her raised eyebrow, the signal that she thinks she's won before the game even started. But I know better. My eyes drift to the corner of the property where the old dam sits, small but steady, holding decades of water with permits that no HOA can override. I can feel the weight of the deed in my jacket pocket, the papers folded tight, lines and dates that mark me as the rightful owner of every inch of this ground. The wind lifts my hair and carries the faint smell of barbecue from last week, mingling with the earthy musk of the pasture, grounding me in this moment, reminding me that the land remembers, and it will speak through the right hands. The gravel underfoot shifts slightly, crunching differently now, almost in rhythm with the quickening of my pulse, and I can hear the distant call of a mockingbird, its high pitch cutting through the low thrum of machinery, as if nature itself is watching, waiting, signaling that the tide is about to turn, that every careless step Brenda's crew takes is being recorded, measured, cataloged, prepared for the moment when justice won't whisper, it will arrive. I step back, letting my gaze sweep across the familiar rolling hills that have shaped my family for decades, the gentle sway of the wild grasses brushing against my jeans, the scent of morning dew mixed with the faint aroma of my father's old leather gloves still clinging to the barn corners. Every tree, every stone, every worn path tells a story, and I can feel the weight of those memories pressing against my chest. Pop built this land with his own hands, laying fence posts straight, measuring each row of crops, teaching me that the soil beneath our feet carries responsibility as much as it carries life. I can remember the summers spent riding along the creek, the water glinting in the afternoon sun, teaching me patience, timing, and respect for what is ours to nurture. The pond reflects the sky like a mirror, smooth and unbroken, yet I know it holds the power to speak through its gates if handled correctly, a secret as old as the original permits tucked away in the county records. I take a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of tilled soil, the faint aroma of wildflowers from the edges of the property, feeling the texture of gravel under my boots as I walk towards the barn, my mind running through every detail of the property, every prior survey, every historical deed and permit, cataloging in my memory the exact line where ownership is absolute and protected by law. The sun climbs higher, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air like a subtle reminder that time is fleeting but the land endures, that each hour I observe now is an investment in understanding every nuance of what I am defending. I pass the old oak where I carved my initials decades ago, the bark rough beneath my fingers, and I can almost hear Pop's voice, guiding me in silent counsel, reminding me that knowledge is as crucial as courage. The farmhouse stands quietly behind me, windows reflecting the soft light, doors closed but memories open. Each creaky floorboard underfoot a whisper of the generations who came before, teaching me diligence and patience. I glance at the horizon, noting where the neighboring properties begin, the subtle shifts in topography that define the limits of our land. And I can already map in my mind the angles, the boundaries, the small rises and dips that will become critical if challenged. My hand brushes against the worn railing of the porch, feeling the grain and the cool morning air, as the faint sound of Brenda's SUV in the distance reminds me that her presence is not just visual but pervasive, a constant reminder that the confrontation is as much about perception as it is about legal right. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the wind carry the scents and sounds, cataloging each detail, preparing mentally for the challenge ahead, knowing that every decision, every observation now, will be the foundation upon which the property and the legacy of my family will stand against interference. The creek murmurs softly, the pond shimmers, the barn holds its silent vigil, and I feel rooted, ready, and utterly aware that this land, with its history, its memories, and its meticulous legal record, is mine to protect, not with force, but with knowledge, patience, and precision. Brenda Whitmore steps out of her SUV, clipboard in hand, her heels clicking sharply against the gravel, the sound cutting through the morning calm like a metronome counting down a challenge. Her smile is practiced, a mix of sweetness and authority, and I can feel the way she surveys my land, eyes tracing every fence line, every stone, every inch of grass she believes she can claim. The air is thick with the scent of fresh pine from the distant forest edge, mingling with the dust stirred up by her crew, carrying with it a faint tang of paint and machinery oil. I stand at the corner of the pasture, hands in my pockets, noticing how the sunlight glints off the survey markers she planted, the angle perfect to catch the eye, the intent unmistakable. Her voice carries across the field, clipped and precise, detailing every infraction she imagines, from grass height to gate alignment, each word a calculated jab meant to assert dominance. And yet every syllable bounces off the reality that I have studied this land, know every deed, every permit, every easement. The wind carries the low hum of distant traffic, the occasional bird call, and the soft rustle of leaves, a symphony I have known since childhood, grounding me, reminding me that these hills, this creek, this pond have a rhythm that no outsider can disrupt. My eyes drift to the old dam, its gates closed, still water reflecting the sky, a mirror of patience, a tool and testament to foresight, waiting for the moment when knowledge outweighs arrogance. I can feel the tension in the air, the subtle shift of the crew as they notice my presence, the way they pause mid-task, the faint scrape of metal against wood slowing, almost as if the land itself holds its breath. I take a step forward, gravel crunching beneath my boots, feeling the vibration travel up through my legs, grounding me in the certainty that I understand every slope, every boundary, every historical right that protects this property. The sun rises higher, glinting off the roof of the barn, warming the air, highlighting every detail, every contour, every element of this place that has nurtured generations. I notice the faint trail of dust from Brenda's tires, the way the sunlight catches it, making it visible in the air like a spotlight, illuminating her intent, but also the precision of my countermeasure, quietly prepared, unseen yet ready. My breath catches slightly as the wind shifts, carrying the combined scents of earth, timber, and early morning dew, and I can almost hear the soft murmur of the creek, steady and constant, reminding me that every right, every legal line, every ounce of preparation is aligned with patience, with foresight, with the quiet certainty that this land, steeped in history and memory, will speak in my favor when the time comes, and that every planted detail, every subtle measurement, every careful observation will converge in a moment of undeniable clarity, a moment where the balance of knowledge, patience, and legacy will assert itself without force, leaving only the inevitable outcome of rightful ownership. Brenda Whitmore gestures toward the newly installed survey markers, her voice precise and clipped as she lists each supposed violation, every syllable echoing across the fields like an accusation meant to dominate. And I watch her, calm and steady, noting the way the sunlight glints off the edges of the markers, highlighting how perfectly straight and aligned they are, a silent testament to the care that Pop and I took decades ago. My fingers traced the edge of the wooden fence post I had placed when I was 12, worn and weathered yet resolute, grounding me in the knowledge that these boundaries were legally and historically mine. I can hear the low hum of the tractor still parked near the barn, its engine idling softly, mixing with the faint rustle of the prairie grass and the distant call of a red-tailed hawk, a rhythm that reminds me that the land itself is steady, patient, and observant. Each step I take on the gravel path crunches with intention, measured, as I move closer to the corner where the dam sits quietly, the water reflecting the bright Texas sky, still and calm, a reservoir of both life and leverage. The scent of damp earth rises from the creek bank, mingling with the faint aroma of fresh-cut hay and the subtle sweetness of wildflowers dotting the pasture, grounding me in this place that has shaped my family and shaped me. I glance at the temporary structures Brenda's crew erected, noting the precise angles, the way the boards are nailed, the care with which they attempt to assert control, yet every detail speaks to their lack of understanding, their ignorance of the deeds, permits, and easements that define the truth of ownership here. I take a deep breath, tasting the air, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin, the slight breeze tugging at my sleeves, and I can sense the subtle shift in energy, the moment before a decision, when knowledge, preparation, and history align to create inevitability. The fence line, the pond, the barn, the grove of oaks, all mapped perfectly in my mind, hold secrets and proofs waiting to be revealed, a network of details Brenda cannot see but cannot ignore. I watch her hands, poised over her clipboard, noting every gesture, every moment of confidence, knowing that the smallest misstep will intersect with the meticulous documentation I have compiled, and the air between us feels charged with anticipation, the quiet before the confirmation that the land remembers its rightful owner. The gravel crunches again as I step closer to the edge of the property, sensing the weight of the deeds and permits in my jacket, every line a silent promise, every clause a shield, and I know that each of these observations, each careful measurement, and each piece of evidence will converge in a way that is patient, deliberate, and unavoidable, preparing the stage for the moment when rightful ownership asserts itself without haste or spectacle, leaving only the clarity of truth and the inevitable alignment of justice. I step back, letting the early morning light illuminate the rolling hills and the gentle curves of the pasture, the gravel crunching under my boots with each measured step, feeling the subtle vibrations travel up through my legs, as if the land itself is acknowledging my presence. The farmhouse stands quietly behind me, windows reflecting the sun, doors closed yet brimming with decades of memory, the faint scent of old timber and hay drifting from the barn, mingling with the crisp air and the distant aroma of wildflowers along the creek. I pause at the edge of the property where the fence line curves near the old dam, fingers brushing the rough wood, tracing the grooves made by years of care, remembering my father's instructions about measurement and precision, and the sound of water trickling over the dam spillway is steady and reassuring, a quiet rhythm that contrasts with the hum of Brenda Whitmore's crew in the distance. Her voice carries faintly, precise and clipped, cataloging every minor imperfection she believes she can use against me. But I have cataloged everything as well, every deed, every historical record, every legal easement mapped and committed to memory. I walk along the gravel path, inhaling deeply the mix of earthy scents, tilled soil, and dew, the sun warming my back, the prairie grass brushing my legs, each detail grounding me, sharpening my awareness, preparing me mentally for the moments ahead. I glance at the temporary structures her crew erected, noting the angles, the alignment, the placement, all perfectly captured in photographs and mapped against the original property survey. Every element accounted for, every detail ready to support the proof of ownership when the time comes. The distant call of a mockingbird cuts through the morning calm, a high note over the low hum of machinery, echoing across the hills, almost like a signal that the land remembers, that it witnesses every step, every careful observation, every thoughtful preparation I make. The dam gates glint in the sun, their metal surface smooth, holding decades of water in quiet patience, and I know that every legal paper, every deed tucked in my jacket, every historical note and federal permit is aligned with the physical reality before me, reinforcing the certainty that the property belongs to me, that every step I take, every observation, and every plan laid down patiently over months will converge into undeniable clarity. I let my eyes drift across the entire property, taking in the pond, the barn, the grove of oaks, the creek, each element a witness, each line and curve accounted for, and I feel the weight of preparation and knowledge settle firmly, like the sun warming the soil beneath my boots, steady and sure. The subtle rustle of leaves, the gentle flow of water, the distant sounds of wildlife, all form a symphony that mirrors the structure of my plans, the precision and patience required to ensure that when action is taken, it is not impulsive or loud, but deliberate, informed, and absolutely effective, so that the legacy of this land and the careful attention of generations will stand firm against any challenge. Inside the farmhouse, I carefully spread the old permits, deeds, and water rights across the polished oak table, the crisp paper edges catching the morning light, each document a fragment of a story that had been written decades before I even existed. The smell of aged ink mingled with the faint aroma of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen, grounding me as I traced my finger along the fine print, noting every signature, every date, every clause that affirmed my claim to the land. Outside, the gentle rustle of leaves in the grove of oaks mixed with the low hum of distant traffic, and I could hear Brenda's SUV idling far across the field, unaware that every step she takes has been anticipated, every move quietly logged. I recall the original survey from the 1970s, its fine lines mapping every curve, every boundary, a master plan that still holds legal power, and I cross-reference it with the modern plots, noting each discrepancy, each opportunity to assert the truth of ownership. The pond glistens in the sunlight, calm and reflective, and I feel the subtle vibration through the floor as the old boards shift slightly under my weight, a reminder that this house, these beams, these walls, have endured generations, holding stories of diligence, patience, and careful observation. I opened the filing cabinet to retrieve the dam permits, their pages worn and soft from years of handling, and I placed them beside the deeds, aligning the edges with meticulous precision, letting my mind weave together the connections between water rights, property law, and historical occupancy. The scent of pine from the distant forest drifts in through the open window, the warm sunlight streaming across the table highlighting every word and seal, every line that reinforces my right to the land. I step outside to double-check the survey markers, feeling the gravel under my boots, the texture sharp beneath my soles, noting how the morning light casts long shadows that accentuate the precise measurements I took months ago. Every marker, every corner post, every angle of the fence line has been placed to mirror the original survey, a silent language of evidence that speaks louder than any argument Brenda can make. I walk the perimeter slowly, cataloging each feature. The barn, the pond, the grove, the creek, and in my mind, I overlay the historical deeds, imagining the perfect alignment that will leave no room for dispute. The air carries a subtle mixture of scents, fresh-cut hay, morning dew, the distant wildflowers along the creek, and the metallic tang of tools left in the sun, all grounding me in the reality of stewardship and preparation. Every moment, every observation, every document, and every physical measurement compounds into a strategy of quiet certainty, building toward the moment when knowledge and patience will assert themselves, and the land, steeped in history, memory, and legal precedent, will speak clearly, leaving Brenda and her assumptions powerless against the weight of truth. The moment to act is close, and I move deliberately, each step measured, boots crunching over the gravel path leading to the old dam, the morning sun casting long shadows that stretch across the rolling hills, highlighting every curve of the land, every fence post, every survey marker I have meticulously placed. I reach into my jacket and pull out the stack of deeds, permits, and historical documents, feeling the weight of decades in my hands, the faint scent of ink and aged paper filling the air. Each document is more than paper. It is authority, history, and a roadmap to asserting what is rightfully mine. Outside, Brenda Whitmore continues her inspection, unaware that I have traced every corner, every easement, and every water right, aligning them perfectly with the physical reality before us. I glance at the pond, the still water reflecting the bright blue sky, calm but ready, a reservoir of potential, a silent ally in the orchestration of justice. The barn and the grove of oaks stand as witnesses, their shadows dancing in the sunlight, reminding me that the land holds memory, patience, and perspective, that it has seen generations steward it with care, and it will recognize rightful ownership when the time comes. I take a deep breath, inhaling the mixture of pine, fresh-cut hay, and earthy soil, and I feel the subtle vibration through the floorboards and gravel beneath my feet, a quiet affirmation that every observation, every measurement, and every preparation has built toward this moment. My eyes scan the field, the markers, the subtle inclines and curves, each one perfectly documented and accounted for, and I allow myself a moment to appreciate the alignment of legal knowledge, historical documentation, and physical reality that I have orchestrated. The wind shifts slightly, carrying the scent of the wildflowers near the creek, brushing against my sleeves, and I can hear the distant hum of machinery, now almost irrelevant against the certainty of preparation and foresight. Each corner of the property, each line drawn in the past, every note and permit is poised to converge, and I feel the pulse of anticipation as if the land itself is breathing with me, waiting to reveal the undeniable truth. Brenda glances toward me, confident but unaware, her clipboard a flimsy shield against decades of documented stewardship. I take another measured step, the gravel crunching like a steady metronome, syncing with the calm but resolute rhythm in my chest, knowing that every planted detail, every subtle observation, every careful preparation will soon align to create a moment of clarity, a demonstration of ownership and legacy that cannot be denied, ensuring that when the time arrives, the land, the documents, and the careful orchestration of decades will speak for themselves, asserting justice quietly but absolutely, leaving no question about who has nurtured, protected, and rightfully claims this land. The sun climbs higher, illuminating every corner of the property, each fence post casting a sharp, deliberate shadow that aligns perfectly with the markers I placed weeks ago, and I can see Brenda Whitmore pausing mid-step, her confident stride faltering as she notices the alignment, the precision, the subtle details that reveal careful preparation. I reach the dam gates and run my hand along the cool metal, feeling the tension of decades of careful engineering, knowing that every spillway and channel has been mapped, documented, and confirmed against federal permits and historical records. The pond mirrors the sky, smooth and unbroken, reflecting the meticulous order of my planning, and I can hear the faint rustle of leaves and the distant call of a red-tailed hawk, the natural soundtrack affirming the patience and foresight built into every corner of this land. I step onto the gravel path toward the barn, crunching deliberately, each sound measured, resonating through the early morning calm, and I notice the subtle shift in Brenda's posture, the slight tightening of her grip on the clipboard, the way her eyes scan the land with uncertainty now creeping into her expression. Every document I have collected, every deed, every water right, every easement and permit converges in my mind with the physical markers before me, creating a lattice of proof that cannot be ignored. I glance across the rolling hills, the grove of oaks, the small creek that winds through the pasture, each element a silent witness, each one perfectly accounted for, and I feel the steady hum of inevitability building, a quiet certainty that the land, its history, and the law are aligned behind me. Brenda's crew moves cautiously now, the earlier confidence replaced by hesitation, and I know that each step they take is being measured against the framework of preparation and documentation I have constructed. The air is rich with the scent of pine, fresh-cut hay, and morning dew, mingling with the faint metallic tang of tools and equipment, grounding me, keeping my focus sharp, every sense engaged, every detail recorded. I pause to look at the farmhouse, the barn, the pond, and the old fence line, visualizing the convergence of all evidence, legal and physical, into a single undeniable truth, and I can almost feel the land itself holding its breath, ready to reveal what has been carefully prepared over weeks of observation and calculation. My chest rises and falls in rhythm with the subtle wind, the sun warming my back, the gravel shifting softly underfoot, and I sense that the moment when the meticulous work of preparation, documentation, and understanding intersects with reality is imminent, that the quiet assertion of rightful ownership is about to unfold naturally, leaving nothing to dispute and ensuring that the land, the history, and the law converge to affirm what is rightfully mine without haste, spectacle, or uncertainty. The morning sun casts a golden glow across the rolling hills, illuminating every fence post, every survey marker, every corner of the property that has been carefully preserved and meticulously documented for generations. I stand at the edge of the pond, its water reflecting the sky like a mirror, still and unbroken, a silent witness to the culmination of patience, preparation, and knowledge. Brenda Whitmore pauses, her confident demeanor now tempered by the realization that every claim she imagined has been anticipated and accounted for, every document I have gathered, every historical deed and permit, aligning perfectly with the land itself. I take a slow, deliberate step across the gravel path, feeling the shift beneath my boots, the subtle vibration carrying the weight of decades of stewardship, and I know that every measurement, every observation, every careful preparation has converged into a moment of undeniable clarity. The barn and the grove of oaks cast long shadows, standing as silent witnesses to the legacy of care and precision that has shaped this land, and I can feel the subtle acknowledgement of the soil and trees, the air carrying the faint scents of pine, fresh hay, and morning dew, blending into a quiet affirmation of what is rightfully mine. The markers, the fences, the pond, and the creek form a lattice of proof, a network of reality and documentation that leaves no room for doubt, every element in harmony with the history and the law, silently affirming ownership and legacy. I glance at the farmhouse, windows gleaming in the sunlight, doors closed yet alive with decades of memory, and I can sense the invisible weight of those who came before, guiding me, reminding me that patience, observation, and respect for the land create power stronger than arrogance or assumption. Brenda's SUV is parked at a distance, engines off, her presence now hesitant, her claims quietly dissolving against the meticulous alignment of evidence and physical reality. The wind carries the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft call of distant birds, the steady murmur of the creek, forming a natural chorus that harmonizes with the certainty that has been built through careful, deliberate action. I run my fingers along the edge of the old dam, feeling the smooth metal, the craftsmanship of generations, the quiet strength that mirrors the precision of my preparations, and I understand that the moment is complete, that knowledge, patience, and thoroughness have created a scenario where justice unfolds naturally, silently, and absolutely. Every step, every observation, every document, and every physical marker now speaks in unison, declaring the truth of ownership without the need for force, without spectacle, leaving only the clarity that what has been nurtured, protected, and carefully stewarded will always endure. I stand back, taking in the entirety of the property, the sun warm on my back, the air rich with the sense of earth and life, and I feel the quiet satisfaction of inevitability, the sense that patience and preparation, aligned with the law and history, have restored order and affirmed rightful stewardship, leaving the land, and all who witness it, in undeniable recognition of what is mine and will remain so.